Hi.
Harry!
Where have I seen you before?
I know, right?
I know you from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Around.
Around, something is resonating, some fields.
Yes. Feeling the fields.
Seeing the system.
Yes.
Do you mind if I have a soup while we chat?
Not at all. What's the soup?
Well, leftover soup.
Great. It all just goes in the pot. Is there some broccoli rice in there?
Yes. How do you know?
It's just, I was sensing in and I could feel the little trees.
You resonate quite well, Tammy.
Right? Okay, so you are 7:30?
6:30 now.
6:30. Okay, great.
And you?
9:30 in the morning.
10:30. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are. Just the two of us.
That's right. So there's a few things that I'd love to do. It's interesting to kind of start in the middle as we are. Like, what is discovery when you've known each other for over a year? How do we further discover each other? So this is an experiment.
Yes, it all is. So tell me.
Yes. You're so hilarious. Oh my gosh. So there's a few things that I'd like to learn how to do, Harry.
Okay.
One is I'd like to try some I am statements. Like,
Okay.
if we could each, if in our cohort of people we could each do like a couple-minute piece of who we are, what we offer, and what we need, that would be useful for our network.
I hear that you talk a lot about we.
Yes, it's true.
Do you? And I would like to hear about I, Tammy.
Exactly.
An I am statement, as you are saying.
Yeah. So I am a human being that is alive and awake to my circumstance and the circumstance of the world, and they're entangled. And I have offerings, and I would like to share them. And I would like to hear others' offerings and deeply consider what that means. I went into the we again, didn't I? Yes, I did. Yes. because that's my purpose. It's entwined with my purpose.
Could you say a little more about that?
Yeah, my purpose is to...
And as a process remark, am I allowed to ask anything?
Everything. You're allowed to ask everything, Harry.
Okay. So, okay.
And if it crosses a boundary, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
I understand that you come at this with your Dutchness.
And my hairiness.
Yes. So.
And love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want you to know that as well. There's no bad intent in it.
Yes, I feel that and know that.
Thank you.
My purpose is to wake up.
But you are waking up.
Yes. And to be transparent with that process with other people. Warts and all, as it were.
Yes.
How am I able to really be authentic? It's only really held by whomever I'm with. If I feel that I have to prove something to you, Harry, I'm gonna present myself in a different way. But if I feel really safe and loved and cared about and like you're interested, I can show up more in my fullness. Yeah.
Yes, I recognize that. And I'm also trying and testing and, yes, experimenting if I can do that without anybody else's permission, even when there's no safe space, that I, given that circumstances, can I allow myself to be totally myself.
Yeah. Yes.
Into the wild.
Exactly.
Reality. Because I experience when I have the courage or by accident do it, that's a very, authenticity is an unstoppable force. And it allows and invites other people to show it themselves.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Yes. And broccoli soup.
And broccoli soup. Yeah. It's a very soft and subtle place. It's like we're building the ability to be like if within these safe spaces we can build the muscle to do it when those safe spaces aren't there.
Muscle like capacity, right?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I encounter a lot of new vocabulary when I'm in those conversations. It is very good for my English.
My Dutch is terrible, so you
get encountered with Dutch culture through me.
Yeah, here in Canada, there's this politeness thing we do.
Everywhere.
But
everywhere. In the Netherlands, I noticed that by coming back from Belgium, it has a totally different culture. That in the Netherlands, it's appreciated that you bring what you ever have to say, even when it's uncomfortable. The honesty is more appreciated than being just polite. And of course, it needs respect and trust in order to be possible. But most conversations they are not about whether I like you or whether I allow you to say whatever or accept you or whatever. That's kind of, and to a certain level, it's a given thing here. And I think that makes the difference. I assume that you are okay and that you're of good intent and you say what you have to say and you act within certain boundaries. And that gives me the permission and the ability to kind of put on the table what I can bring. And that's appreciated. Opinions are not an attack in the Netherlands. They're a contribution.
Yeah.
And I like that.
We can learn from that.
Please do. It saves a lot of time.
Yeah, that's what I got most out of our last, is it Sunday unblocked?
This last, I confronted you in a way with
Yeah.
something. I made it more direct than you were used to. Was I sensed.
Which I appreciate.
Thank you. But that was okay. So that was an observation that was correct.
Yes.
Okay. So okay. That's, thanks. Okay. Cool. I deserved some more soup.
Yeah.
Mm. There's also something nice. Something. S's are different. All the same in the Netherlands. And I have to carefully think about which S I need to use. They're all different in English. What is the you have the consonants? That's the word, right?
Yes.
They're more diverse in English than they are in Dutch.
So what are the different S's?
Think, think,
Okay.
and the D and the T also, like word and what and like that. So you can immediately recognize a Dutchman by his lack of sensing that properly.
Right. Okay.
I need really to use my brain in order to get the right one out of
Yes.
the alphabet code.
Alphabet soup.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that for the wider thing that I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
or that I'm doing, because I am doing it, isn't
Yes.
really quite visible.
Mm-hmm.
I notice.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And that's curious to me because it burns so brightly. And yet there are these things, social constructs, beliefs that get in the way of fully understanding what a fully embodied present moment documentation of something can be.
That sounds like a contradiction. When your presence doesn't need documentation, because documentation is just a representation. Did you see the last? You saw the visual I made for Helen Fidori.
Yes.
What's her name?
Fenador.
That's about. These are different. Here's reality, and then there's my brain and my representation of it. These are three separate. What did you name them? Systems of representation.
Yes.
So which one are you referring to now?
I'm referring to the entanglement of all three of them.
That sounds complicated. We might have to untangle them then.
So in this moment, you and I are being present with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we've pressed record.
No, you did.
Yes, I did on our behalf.
And that's what you're saying. I didn't say anything about that.
Oh, shit. Harry, do you mind if we record this session?
No.
Great.
If you said we again.
Oh, shit.
Language is interesting, isn't it?
Very much so.
It reveals that reveals something about you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think it talks to a deep desire inside of you. It's an utterance of that. Could that be true?
Yes, definitely.
Could you say a little more about that?
Yes. When I had in the year 2000, I had a series of insights around my purpose. And that purpose showed me the entanglement of the universe, the way that we are all connected, and that there's something underneath that all, a life force that does connect us all.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time, this was the year 2000, some of the things that were going on then were when there was an election in the States, when Bush got elected that fall. But that in the year, because that was not till November, in the summer, there was a really amazing upswell of connection, of possibility, potentiality.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just fully in that and sensing into that interconnectivity of us, and inspired to consider media, democracy, and the economy, and how those things actually worked.
Okay.
So media,
Yes.
the way the world is presented to us, democracy, how we interact with the world, and then the economy that
There's the same triangle in larger scale.
yeah. And what I experienced was an understanding of those three things and how they worked together, or how they interacted together to create systems of power and control.
Yeah. Okay.
And that there were ways that we could decide and choose to interact in those spaces that could demonstrate us taking our power back, because each one of us does have agency in that.
Could you elaborate on that one, because that's important to understand, I think. I would like to understand it a little more.
Yeah, can you reframe the question? Because I've had this bong come up.
Yeah, I saw something now.
I'm closing all of my Facebook pages so that stops happening. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Well, in the year 2000, we had this insight due to what happened around you. And it was the entanglement between democracy, economy, and
media.
And I thought I recognized the same kind of triangle I just drew yesterday. And then you have a desire to do something with it, and it gave you insights and a desire to do something with it into the world. And what you were saying, if I recorded it correctly, was, okay, there are ways we can do something about it. And then you said, take power back. And that's where I got also alarm bell, because taking back power is basically going into the power struggle. And I wonder if that is what you want. Then you accept the game.
Yes.
And they're stronger than we are in there, because they have always won until now for good reasons.
Ooh, for good reasons. That's something to dive into.
Well, it's like, it's the winner takes all. And if the winner, because he won, he's right. Might is right, kind of thing. We could go into that in a philosophical sense, but I don't think that's relevant for our conversation. But the one who has power gets to decide that he's right. Even when you agree or not, that doesn't matter, because you lost.
What if winning means everyone wins, though?
That's your definition, not his.
Who's he?
The winner.
So
it's like when two children are playing and one wins and the other says it's not fair, and the other says I don't care.
So getting back to the insights.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What I saw or resonated with was that the way that the power structures currently work put a frame around that in terms of winners and losers.
Mm-hmm.
That's a conceptual framework.
Yes.
And I believe that there are ways for us to conceive of power and in ways that distribute it to everyone. And so that's the lens I'm looking through, is
yes.
what are the mechanisms of power that we can create for ourselves in collaboration with others to give the context of empowerment for each person. So it's a question and a quest, and I have a sense of what that might look like in terms of how that can look in the media frame, how that can look in a democratic frame, and how that can look in an economic frame. And they all look different, and they're but similar in terms of each person has a contribution. That contribution can be offered into the common space.
Mm-hmm.
And how we can do it in the creation of media is just this way. What we're doing, you are investing your time and attention into understanding me, and I am investing my time and attention in understanding you.
Uh-huh.
So we're giving each other a basis to be able to actually share. In terms of democracy, if we were able to contribute towards policy development and say what we actually think about how our world is being governed, and go deeper into those conversations and look at what would need to be in place to have people's views and their needs and wants seen and responded to in policy and legislation and the functions of governance, that would look very different. It would be less about corruption and the corporations supporting the representative democracy actors who, and then for me, it's the economy where I'm like, that's the one ring that rules them all, right? Because all policy decisions are based on the economic realities, and how that system is designed is not actually designed. It's been a moving train wreck for a couple hundred years. But if we actually thought about it and created systems of value creation and exchange that anyone could participate with, that's where I see there's not about winners and losers at that point. It's about everyone having the privilege to participate. So that's what I've been burning to experience and create in these different ways. And yeah.
This vision, Tammy, have you brought it out brought it into some form so you can bring it out in the world?
My first go was a project called the People's Network. And so, have you heard me talk about that? Yeah. So
you might have mentioned it, but
didn't stick. Yeah.
No.
So in early 2001. So I had the insights in 2000. Bush got elected and the world switched tracks. In 2001, I really felt that shift in the world and was really deeply concerned. And so a small group of us created a project called the People's Network. And that was a web TV project where we created little videos, engaged with community, had people share what it was they were doing. So it was like a pre-social network, social network, and allowed people to be able to comment and all of those things, because Facebook didn't happen until 2005 or 6 or whatever it was, same as YouTube. So it was weaving together community conversation, community showing what people were doing in community, and having the ability for people to connect in that space. And so
the concept and the format is roughly still what you do, right?
Say again?
the concept of that is not, hasn't changed much since, if I get it. Okay, thanks. Okay.
And so that was about 11 months of in time investment. We didn't find funding. I was, the person that was the executive director or whatever, because we had to form an organization, and I'd never done anything like that before. And what I learned from that is I needed to learn how organizations worked. So I took my learning from that and went into a bunch of other already existing realms, like Vancouver Indie Media was one place where I put my energy, and ICTV, which was a community television project here in Vancouver. And I joined the Wilderness Committee and started working with them, and that was door knocking. That was canvassing on environmental issues. So I worked there for a decade. And so that kind of like person-to-person storytelling and really learning how to connect with people on an emotional and issue basis to be able to move them to take action about the issues. So all of those pieces really built my capacity to connect with people and to be able to see how an organization worked from the inside, team-based development and work. And I've done projects all along that have manifested the desire to lift up people's voices and to. But there's the challenge is that not all of us are ready to say and articulate what we actually think, and there are some social barriers in between being able to be clear and to, it kind of all comes down to having a sense of empowerment myself and holding space for others who have that sense of existing empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
That's the puzzle that I'm still in, is how can I be with people who and have the right conversations that demonstrate that we are empowered right now.
And so you're already 18 years into that puzzle.
Yes.
What have you learned, if I may ask?
I have learned that it's not as easy as it seems.
Apparently not. You didn't foresee 18 years.
No, I didn't. No. Being really honest. Difficult.
Is it difficult for you, to be honest?
Yes.
What makes it difficult?
I feel like I might hurt someone's feelings.
Is that your responsibility?
No.
So why is it difficult?
The culture that I've grown up in is a part of that.
Of course, but you're smart and you're doing this 18 years, so you might have found out quite rather. That's not recent insight, I think.
No, it's not.
No. So what's behind that?
I think it's a fear of showing up fully as me.
That sounds more like an answer to me.
Yeah.
And what holds you back? Why is that so difficult? You're welcome. Now you have my attention.
Yes. I feel like there's a fear of being huge, right? The beauty that is in me is You know what? It's marred by my capacity to feel it, right? It's like there's a little cloud between me and my perception of me, and it has some fear, it has some shame, it has some blame. Why has it taken me 18 years to get here?
Mm-hmm.
And can't I just stand in the power that I know and feel?
I think you can.
I think I do.
Now?
80% right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Quite enough.
Yeah.
Who needs perfection?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I notice, like, in this moment, there's like, my breath isn't easy. It's like the presence is such that it's there and then it hitches. It's like there's this, it's so big what is possible
Mm-hmm.
that it's breathtaking.
Yes, but there's no need to take it all at once. One breath at a time would be good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So here we are.
There you are, at least.
Oh, shit.
But I'm here as well, don't worry. I won't go away.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice. Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Harry, what are you learning in these spaces? What are your current insights?
Presencing, embodiment is being here and now and not changing that, not changing myself, not changing what needs to happen. And so I liked the conversation with Fleming, just that was a nice one once more. And I like a lot that I have a lot of these different conversations, like Doug is apparently also spending all his time online, and I'm doing that more and more as well. And that's kind of taking a lot of time, as you can see behind me. This is stuff I should be doing. And okay. And I think, on the other hand, this is relevant and important, but it's also kind of addictive and enjoyable because it's a way of having the deep connections and conversations that I love to have. And it's easier to get them online because there's such a variety of availability of smart and intelligent people of goodwill somewhere in the same frequency. And I forgot the question.
What are you learning?
Yeah, well, I'm learning so to be here, to embody it, and to more and more, and that's important for me, to show up as I am. That's a kind of way, but also to show what I have to give. And there's also I have some deep imprints that is what I bring is not understood, and because I've apparently have lived in environments that did not appreciate what I brought because I was too fast or too much all over the place and too much kind of all kinds of everything at the same time, happiness. And I was so, in a lot of ways, I think, too much for people around me. So, yeah, but some people like boring and easy and shallow lives because that's comfortable.
Yeah.
And I need to learn to appreciate that. and let that be, and not try to change other people, because if I try to change others, then I do not respect them as who they are. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of difficult for me. And now that I got the insight, and I have to think, Noam Chomsky, I saw a part of an interview with him, and he was praised by the interviewer who was a student with him, and he said, a teacher that's trying to put stuff in other people's heads in the old-fashioned ways, that's a kind of violence, because you're trying to change them. He said you can invite their curiosity and ask them questions and put something forward. And if they're like you can't force children. You can, and that happens a lot. Force children to eat, but that's not the way we should go about with each other. And of course, we have a long history of kind of primitivity in those convictions. But I'm learning that I should not be doing that. So and that's very important, and I'm learning to kind of gradually to show what I have without shame, as you mentioned yourself as well. Am I a shame? And the internet is unstable. Are you still with me?
I have just come to hear you again.
Okay.
Small glitch.
I thought it was unstable, it says. So I'm starting to share kind of my thoughts, and I always need to put them to paper for myself. And I know it has value if I clarify this and kind of feel it and put it out in the world. And so I'm just, this last 24 hours, this morning in the chat with Sven, my friend, I got to the insight why it's valuable that I do my work and that I make visuals, because seeing, and I just learned that from the mathematician Roger Penrose, is a Nobel Prize winner, and he says, understanding is beyond reasoning. And he thought a lot about it, and as far as I can follow him, I totally agree. And seeing is somewhere in also beyond reasoning. When you see it, I don't need to explain. I could talk to it and talk about it, and maybe then explain and lay it out. But you see the integral, the intertwinedness you are referring to. Mm-hmm. So that's nice. So I got this gift, and I need to use it, and I want to use it, and burn to use it, as you mentioned it. To use this, and now for the first time I understand why I always sensed that it was so valuable, but also had doubts in order to share it, because it's not acknowledged that this insight is not common. How it works, because the insights in how our brains work and how our neurons fire and all that is rather recent insights and mechanics behind it. And I have to thank Mike Parker as well for helping me a lot in this. So I have a lot of recent, fresh insights. They kind of come together and synergize, and aha! So this is why it's important for me to bring this.
Yeah, I had a interesting insight about that, which I shared part of, which is this idea of shorthand, right? Like your work, it could take a person a week or a month to understand something by reading all of the stuff, or they can, spend a minute or two looking at one of your diagrams and save themselves all of that time.
Spot on. That's exactly what I want to do and have to do. Mm-hmm. Like in the Ikigai, it's what I'm good at, and what people in the world needs it as well. Because there's, as we all notice in our conversation, we all bring so much here, and then we have to put it out through this pipeline of speech or words, and it's undoable. Mm-hmm. And especially because we also kind of need to repeat ourselves until it's distilled so in a way that comes out fluently and concise and all that. And once the picture is done, just show it and say, aha, and then it's done. Yes. No need to explain or discuss it or whatever. I have stopped very complex conversations just as one visual.
Yes,
Cool.
it's a superpower.
Yes, in that sense, you could call it a superpower. Yes. And what I need to add to make it complete, what makes me different than over a lot of other people, visual thinkers that I totally admired, and I have to mention pioneers like Dave Gray, who are extremely good at what they do, is that I kind of think I got grasped what I call, by a lack of a better word, the visual grammar of things. Because we're talking about grammar, we use the notion of grammar as it is in words and language. But this is a different channel. So those rules don't apply in the seeing. And I think I know what's happening. And I'm trying to, so many say, I need to write a book about it.
And so maybe you can give an example of the visual grammar.
Okay, it's very simple. It's the way it's following, as language is as well, but it's following the organization of our brains. And as we had to survive in the world, we are very sensitive to what's important or not, because we survived. So we are extremely sensitive to what's relevant. For in the visual realm, help me with the word, realm. Okay, yeah. In the visual realm, in the visual domain, our eyes are programmed. We see very sharp and colorful here. In this part of our field of vision, there's less color, but we are very sensitive to movement. You can test this.
Yes.
Something is here in the perimeter of my brain. So there's danger there, because there might be movement. Something happening there. We sense it immediately. So our brain is organized around vision in a very specific way. And then once you know something asks for your attention, or requires or demands attention, it's not a question of free will, but something demands you, like you said with your Facebook popping up. You didn't choose that, did you? No free will involved there. So, okay, what happens? And that's what happens, that the alarm bell in your brain takes over. This needs attention. So you give it attention, whether you don't choose it yet. It grabs your attention. It's how we word it, and properly, I would guess. Okay, so when something grabs your attention, then you have to make a distinction whether it's really important or not. You could look at it, this is irrelevant, and you forget about it. So there's not even get registered. But when it's important, there's a next distinction, and that's mapped in our brain. Is it relevant to me? Because me is mapped quite large in my brain. It's all about me. And then the next thing, is it another human? And and I think the grammar goes a little well. Is it alive or is it not alive? And if it's something that lives, is it something that's kind of close to how much different is it from a human being? Then you have plants, then you have little critters and creatures, and then you have animals that look like us, and they have even monkeys that look a lot like us. And we have pets, we pretend to be subhuman, and unless we decide to eat them. So basically you are deciding, is it relevant to us, and related to us, and is it edible or not? So that's how brains work. So that's what we do unconsciously. But the grammar is also, when I draw a picture, I always draw people, because then it becomes real to you and me. Like when you imagine the image the last image I made was just a one person, as simple as I can make it. A thought bubble, a document, and a circle around it, stating that this is what reality is. So you're standing here on the surface of the earth. Then there's some erect thing, and that's a human, because you can see eyes and a nose, and once it has eyes, it's a human or a living thing. And then, well, that's about all I draw, but you recognize it easily because it fits the grammar in the organization in your brain.
Yes.
So that's an example.
Mm-hmm. Can we weave a little to the alphabet code?
Oh yes. Can I take a soup so then you start talking, explaining? And
we'll put on pause for a moment.
Yes.
Okay, we're back. And yeah, so in terms of the alphabet code, the fundament is we are all that is being and perceiving. So your superpower to be able to show and see complex ideas in an image is a very powerful way to be able to create pointers that allow us to see ourselves. And so what you have to offer, your natural capacities and abilities, really help to supercharge our ability to see in this world. Because that's what I get from the alphabet code is that's what we're meant to be, is seers. So to perceive our world is part of the action that happens. But it's kind of all behind the frame. And a lot of what I'm deeply considering is what's behind the frame of what we understand reality as. Oh, you're muted.
Why is that important?
So that we can feel what is informing us, and so that we can deeper connect, I think. We can connect with what our world is in a way that gives us the capacity to have a shorthand, to not have to speak for hours and hours or read or take in information, but to quickly understand what we're seeing. Why is that important? I think so that we can come to understanding and a sense of resonance. So we can land on our purpose. I mean, it's a recursive loop that keeps weaving us back to who we are and what we're doing here.
Yes, so, could I react? I have two things that react in me. One is the thing. Okay, but yes, stuff needs to be done because things are wrong. And there's another layer, and we kind of touched upon that one in the conversational experiments we just had. Is that maybe that's the mistake? Maybe everything is okay the way it is.
And where's our consciousness in that, right?
Well, if I am conscious that everything is okay the way it is, then the problem that I need to do anything to save the world becomes an illusion that I can let go of.
So this may be mapped to belief. However, my experience in feeling into the world is that it's not all okay the way that it is.
But maybe it's okay that it's not all okay. That's what life is about. If we wouldn't even become conscious of what okay meant if the other side did not exist. How can you know what white means if you don't know what black is? So how can you be aware of what okay is if you don't have even ever experienced what not okay is? It's the difference that informs us.
And what does that awaken or enliven in us as we look at the world? You know, when we see together what is happening, what reactions arise in us?
A lot.
Yeah.
And there's you mentioned two levels, and I'm becoming aware of, and that's what kind of meditation and all that brings, that you can observe and be the observer, and you can be the part that reacts. Indeed, those are not the same.
Yes. Yeah. So there is a point.
Do the alphabet code on point, please.
Thinking within the world, complete within presence.
Okay. Thank you. So there is a point.
Yes. And that point necessarily doesn't include everything else.
Yes and no.
Except that it does. That's that tension of the word that I can't seem to.
Well, that's what a point is, in essence, what you're saying right now, I think.
Yes. And it points us towards something. And there's something underneath that wants to be seen. I think. So the process of discovery between us as we have this conversation allows us to see more. Your questions inform how I will answer.
Yeah.
And that seeing more is, I think, the point.
Yes, it's about becoming more and more conscious. I think that's what I learned from all those teachers and wise people, but also from life itself. That indeed the process seems to evolve towards more and more consciousness. The system seeing itself.
Yes, that's it. That's it right there, and that's what's encoded in the alphabet code.
Yes, that's why I made the connection now, deliberately.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of that.
Yes. So aware in the alphabet code is all that is and all that is not, that greater understanding of all that is and all that is not, activating energy, aware.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, lovely, lovely. I'm so happy this is recorded.
Mm-hmm. So aware, right? We're coming into states of awareness through how we're seeing.
Yes.
Becoming aware of the lenses we're using.
Yes, you use the word lens a lot as well. Rightly so, I think. Yes. Being aware of the fact that you are looking through lenses. They can be different. Yeah. Spot on. Nice.
Now, what is that space between, and what is the unseen that wants to be seen?
Mm-hmm.
How do you experience that? I mean, your whole process of...
Okay. Well, also this is very recent. It's not it's not so distilled that I can grasp it easily. But the magic is indeed, magic is a difficult word, easily misused, but the magic is between you and me. That's where where your input and mine meet each other. Of course, there we got this interaction, so there new things can emerge that neither you or me could have imagined ever on our own. So it's the interaction that brings the newness.
Yes.
And therefore, it's very important that I'm not busy trying to change your mind, and you're not kind of trying to get them into my thinking. Now we have to be ourselves, be present, embody it, bring ourselves to the table, to the conversation, with all due respect to the other, and not change the other. Because, and I learned it rather recently. I said in another conversation, you might have been there. I did this in 5 rhythm dancing. That you have to be dancing with somebody without changing even the slightest in your appearance and way you do this. So then there can something can be born that hasn't been there before. And if I start reacting to the other, it's also a game. It's a different game that doesn't bring. Then it's more of the same.
Mm-hmm. What's the place of will in all of that, Harry?
I doubt if that really exists.
Ooh, that's interesting. What do you mean?
Well, there's a very good book from a Dutch academic with the title "Free Will Does Not Exist," and he makes a very good point in bringing this over the table from a rationalizing and scientific point of perspective. But I could not find any flaws in his reasoning. And I didn't find this statement undermined by my own experiences. And it was interesting. I didn't bring that on the table in our conversation in the experience because there are too many other things being put forward. I thought that it was not helping or being. It wasn't there in time to say it yet. I sensed I might be mistaken there, but I'm more and more think. Okay, we're all driven by. Yeah, I feel more and more like a radio receiver than by something of free will, and I need the notion of a free will, of course, but. Thanks to I think I have to thank Mike Parker for that because I do a lot of liminal sessions with him, so it helps me to relax and to sink into who I am. So with that there's less stress and less need to do something because I want to do or because I need to or because I have to. I'm just getting more and more mellow and go with the flow. And that's super interesting because a lot of other things are emerging, but I don't feel that I need or want or have to. And it's okay, that's interesting because free will mostly translate is I want something, right? I want something to happen or to be done. Is that correct?
In one form, yes. In another form, no.
Well, that's interesting. What's the difference?
I think that the cultural understanding of free will is one where we are free to be an actor in whatever frame or form we're in. And obviously that is impinged by social construction, by
got it.
Problems. And I think that there's a reality in terms of how we choose to show up in something that is a freedom that we have.
That part I don't get, the second part.
Yeah. As I create more space inside of me to not be influenced by the world and other people, I can listen to that very faint voice inside that tells me my will and what really wants to come from within me.
Okay.
And I think it's hard work to hear that voice.
It's a lot of work, hard work as well, indeed, to kind of become whole in myself. Like even compare it to a channel. Did I say that? I'm more than a receiver than an entity of kind of writing his own program. Yes. Okay.
And I want to weave in there what you just said, Harry, about how in trying to change each other's minds, right? We're not actually doing that. Like there's a facility of us hanging out for the last year and a half-ish that I think both understand that isn't as useful as showing up authentically and presently.
Yes, that's the kind of understanding in our community. That's what you're saying. Yes. Yeah.
And you embody that. So it gives me permission to also embody that.
Thank you. That's a nice compliment.
And okay.
What's happening inside you now?
Well, I'm excited.
Okay, feel into it, please. Enjoy it as well.
Where does our will connect?
Is that possible if there isn't any?
Well, I think that we do have, I believe that we have will.
You think that you have one, and you also assume that I have one.
Well, I see that you have demonstrated your will by showing up here with me. You've chosen that, which I think is a function of will.
Okay.
And I sense that there's a deeper purpose that I conceive of as will, as a collective will, to understand and to embody how we can be together. in a way that's of service to a greater purpose.
I am certain that we are part of a greater whole, intertwined, as you say. And what grabs my attention is that our free will is what we want. And what we want is a kind of, if we're talking about our wants, then it seems to change its energy, and while it's the same thing. So I think our will is a kind of outcome of our wants. And our wants are not free choice. They're needs. So maybe you could do the alpha code on will and want.
Will is an openness to the greater understanding of the complete informing of the template, the complete counseling in the form upon which L is difficult because it's got several meanings.
We are starting with a W, or that you
Openness to the greater understanding.
Okay.
Complete.
Yes.
Counseling the template, that form or frame that is informed.
Okay.
And need is...
And want.
Openness to the greater understanding of all that is within presence. Openness to the greater understanding of all that is inside presence. Want. And that's curious because I've been really considering the nature of desire as well.
It's related, yes.
And, desire is that pull that Doug talks about, right? We're drawn,
exactly.
Yeah. And how is...
Want and need and desire are related.
Yes.
And what I kind of connect to it is will. Because will says I want. And will is also the future tense of I am.
Right.
Or I shall and I will. So it's interesting there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel that will has a deeper generative force.
Intention is related to intention.
Yes.
Because I will do it is an intention.
Yes.
So my will is basically that I chose to respond to the want and the need and the desire. Is that true? Or connect to it?
Connected.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, neat, as you say.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then there's that will and want and desire and need is a causal force that causes us to choose how we spend our time and attention.
See, there's no free will. It's causal. It's all just causal. It's okay. It's fine. Now we kind of perceive this as our free choice, and in a way it is, because I can connect or not connect with what is. With the wholeness, I can be isolated or not, which is basically the pain we go through. In order to know in order to be myself, I have to kind of make the distinction also, but also really the far end of it is that I am totally alone. And the other end is we are all one, but alone and all one is almost the same word. I think it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. But so then it comes full circle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in this moment, our choosing means that we are not alone. This moment of choosing to share time together and to explore each other.
Yes. Agree.
And that's feeding my need for connection.
But are you on the other moments, are you alone? And is that what's painful for you?
I love being alone.
Okay. So what is this about on your side of the story? I don't really sense that yet. I suspect something, but I can't get it.
There's a deeper purpose that burns in me.
Yeah, that's obvious.
I want to connect with others who have that burning desire.
Okay, and then what?
That connection makes me feel alive and on purpose. Like
Okay.
I'm living what
You need allies, companions, travel companions, and all that. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And to know that I'm not alone.
Yes, I had I felt alone quite a lot in my life when I was younger because I did not fit in easily. And then we did a meditation once in a group that was kind of also a rare group. And then all of a sudden I realized that somebody somewhere, on some place on the earth was kind of experienced the same thing as me probably, in that I was not alone. There are more people like me on this planet. And that was a very important awareness in me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I really felt this relief of not being not connected. I wasn't alone, but I was not connected at all.
And what shifted after that insight?
It was a relief that I did not felt so lonely in that. So if this being different and all that, and not being able to kind of for that to make the translation to what other people think is necessary and all that.
And where did you feel it in your body?
It felt like a rush of relief, like a sigh of relief, something like that, and it evoked a lot of hope and opened up that okay, oh wow, something like that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's that I yearn for, and I think feels nourishing in all of our conversations. That's what I'm seeking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So connection, will, purpose, and what really does want to be known between us.
Well, what wants to be known is what it is all about, and we kind of discover that by mirroring each other in this respectful and honest way, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a joy.
It is. Yay! And how can we be, that just made me feel like the child that I am somewhere. There's the child that just knows, these things that we're learning together, Harry, are all the things we should have learned in kindergarten, and maybe we did and forgot.
Maybe we are just remembering. Maybe early in the conversation, there was the assumption that it's all already there, but we kind of had to disconnect in order to become appreciative of that, because by missing we start appreciating what we do not have anymore. Mm-hmm. Once you've been sick, then you appreciate health, not before, because it's just there, you're not aware. But okay, so you have to experience, and I think life might be just about that, the difference in order to become conscious. That's what kind of the I Ching and all those old wisdoms suggest as well. It's not about making the world a better place. That's what we make of it, because we like to improve and grow. But what we need to improve and grow is our consciousness, our awareness. And by trying and failing to make the world a better place, then we have all those nasty experiences that make us aware, wow, life is great as it is, thanks to all the differences. And not to make everything equal and all that. I think that's a mistake. I have to put my thing on silent.
One of my roommates, Stormy, read a story to me this morning, and it was about a person had died and gone over to the other side, and they saw someone, and that person, they were like, "What's going on? Where am I?"
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, you were dead." And there was I'm not going to do this proper justice, but they were like, "Oh, so, is it," they talked about reincarnation, and he asked, "Have I lived before?" "Yes, you have, many, many times." And then, and so what next? Do I go to heaven or hell? No, neither of those. Do I reincarnate? Yes. Oh, do I? It looks like you're going back to 560 AD as a Chinese peasant. And, oh, what do you mean I go back in time? What is this? What is that? Well, time doesn't actually exist in the way that you think it does. And when will I be out of this cycle of reincarnation? When you realize that you are everyone. So every action that you take to another is an action you're taking to yourself. And so in that, I was like, this is part of it for me, is as we see each other and recognize each other as family, as the same.
The same. There's something vastly beyond family.
Yes. That there's a piece there that is rich, and if we can put our awareness around that we can have a different relationship with our world.
Anything, yes, everything.
Everything. Yeah. And so
we got the theory.
Yes, and I feel we are doing it. I'm treating you how I would like to be treated. I'm also learning from you how to be more direct. Right? So I'm like, okay, well, what are the superpowers that I can appreciate from Harry that I'd like to include in my toolkit? Being more direct more quickly is one of them.
Yes, and just talking from your own truth without making it a we, or changing that. More from the authentic source that you are, as we all are. There's no need to kind of censor this or make it more nice.
Palatable. We spacish. We space.
Yeah. No. Yes, I kind of started to distrust all this we space talk.
It's a way to hide, I think.
Wow. Is that the way you hide?
I think so. Yeah.
I sense that you don't need that. I don't think it serves you.
I don't think it serves me.
Certainly does not serve your purpose.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Thank you. Now the virtual distance is quite annoying, because otherwise I would have hugged you.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Well, we find our ways.
Well, the intention has come across.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to also point to that it does take courage on your side. I mean, you've got your Dutchness that allows you to just be clear and say, but there is a certain amount of courage to say, this way that you are doesn't serve you. And it takes trust to hear that and know, I know exactly what you're talking about. And not quite, because it's a bit of a blind spot, right? Like I know in part, but I need you to, and others to help me see where I'm doing that.
Yes, and I lovingly mirrored it because I know you trust me enough to hear it. Maybe it doesn't really all sink in. I can sense it because it's new, but you trust me enough. I'm not trying to harm you or criticize you in this. And you know that by now.
So in future moments we'll share, when you see it, put your hand up and tell me, because I can't always see it in the moment.
Yes.
And you do that already, but I encourage you to, I need to beat it out of me.
No. Be kind to it. It has served you well, but you can let go of it. And that's what I thank Mike Parker for once more. I mention his name quite often because what he does is it's not fighting our enemies, but just kind of get to just let go, just focus on what needs to be happening and not fight the enemy, because you keep the enemy awake and is sharp, his swords sharpened, as the I Ching says. Just focus. You have attention, it's energy, so put it where it needs to grow.
Yes.
And your enemies do not need to grow, and your problems do not need to grow. So let go.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Nice, huh?
It is. And it comes at perfect timing because I know you've heard a little bit about this last 6 months. They've been challenging times.
For you, yes.
There's been, I've got 60% more space in me because things have fallen away. And so I'm new to myself right now. And I don't want to fill up that space with what was. I want to just leave it empty to discover and have more capacity to show up fully.
Yeah, I recognize that, I think. When I decided to become a graphic facilitator, I earned my keep by being a graphic designer. So, and then I firstly didn't get any work, of course, hardly any in new field, because it was kind of empty space and it was totally unknown. And then the phone rang and people offered me work as a graphic designer, and then I had to recline it in order to keep the space open.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I said, no, I don't do that anymore. That took courage.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And these days I'm kind of in a similar situation, because having separated and then left everything, my story behind me, so to say, the whole story.
So what's the new story you want to tell, Harry?
It's not there yet. Well, I shared it. Clarifying stuff, making it visible, and putting it into the world in very editable and shareable bits and pieces, so people can say, aha. So you can speed up insights and share them. And preferably in very relevant topics, and that's why all the holochain, I thought that could be the start of a revolution there. That would be lovely. And anyway, whether that will work or not, anyway, the distribution of power, so that we don't overpower each other, because we naturally inclined to do that, because it feels safe to be on top of the mountain. So that's why I'm not against you, but it feels safer to be kind of higher than you are. And but if those mountains are gone, or just little hills or situational kind of, then it feels more safe and more natural and more relaxed to be together.
Mm-hmm. And who is the you in that process? Like, who are you in that process of creating visual understandings for people to be able to explore and know?
I'm insatiably curious. I want to know everything. I enjoyed it. I enjoy understanding stuff and translating it. That's my own process of understanding. And when it's done, it's not that much work to put it out in the forms I just shared, like with Helen yesterday. She kind of, okay, so I shared this. I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I kind of read it and I recognized a lot. And I took the first graphic and I kind of translated it, because a lot of those diagrams are boxes with arrows and words. And it helps because it's spatial, but it's not visual.
Yes.
And our natural way of thinking is visual spatial, because we walk through the savannah and then we have to kind of sense the space around us and then see in order to make sense of it. So the diagramming is and that becomes has emerged the last decades, that you have design thinking and all those facilitation. I was there when it emerged, and now it's kind of a profession. Great. Also, it gets flattened and simplified, but that happens. And now the next step is to kind of, this is visual grammar, to put it in the world in a way that it gets stolen from me and spreads like a virus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, it propagates out there in the world.
Propagates. Thank you. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I like the virus idea as well, because it.
Yeah, well, I say you have people who copy, but real artists, they steal. You just take it and use it, because we talked about ownership earlier, and I think that ownership is irrelevant in this process, because that's my ego protesting.
And how much more does it serve the ego actually to have your stuff stolen and propagate all over? Like there's
there was on Facebook years ago, Dave Gray published his book on the connected company, about how connections within companies make it more efficient, and talking about networking and all that. And now years later, McKinsey comes with this very concise story. It was exactly the same graphic, but then also, of course, so his work got stolen without acknowledgement. And of course, acknowledgement is painful. I know that, because then you are not seen in who you are, and you're talking about being your ownership and your author, and so being ignored, and people do not want to see you because you bring a value they don't want to acknowledge and when honored. That's of course painful and wrong in my sense, but that your work gets stolen, and I think that's more important. It's not about me, it's about what is evolving, and I need to be part of it. I don't want to deny myself, but I also don't want to be in the spotlight and with all people kind of whatever.
You don't want to be in the spotlight.
I don't have to be. That's not a requirement. If it serves the cause, it's fine. But I'd rather sit around the fire together.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, there's some really interesting pieces in there in terms of ego, identity, serving a greater knowing. And I think that's where our learning is. Yes,
as you said in what is the reincarnation story you just shared? If I am everybody, then there's no need for this.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then there's the human parts of us that do want to be acknowledged.
Yes.
And I think that there's...
Everything needs to be seen in order to be part of the whole.
Yes. That's...
The denial of any part is, of course...
That's not it.
No.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm sensing and feeling is that there's, we're looping around to the beginning of the conversation in a way, in terms of how we can, sorry, I've got like wisps of idea that is coalescing. In terms of will, collective will, there's, and in being able to see ourselves, I think that there are really respectful ways, and it's straight up just acknowledgement of how your contributions to me have helped me to inform my idea of the world, how other people's work has contributed to allowing something to be seen. Not that it's necessary, but I think that necessary for all in this current framework that we're in. But if we can show that as being designed into the systems that we create, attribution essentially, we can create a map to be able to really recognize how things are interconnected.
So you want to make the interconnection and the contribution visible? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I think
why is that important?
I think because then we can have a living experience that all of our contributions have value. Because I think that's the cognitive dissonance, is that the world that we live in, based on the competitive whole scene.
You're going into the we talk again.
Oh, I am. I want to contribute into a space and be seen, into the world.
I want to be seen. That
yes.
feels totally different, you know that?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And underneath that, like as I feel into that, I've got some tears behind my eyes, right?
I can see it, yes. I think that we're going deeper here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. When I had the series of insights, the thing that was happening for me is that there was no barrier between me and the world. I didn't really know who I was and what the world was. I couldn't sense that barrier.
It wasn't there. No, it wasn't there at that moment.
Yeah.
Normally, it is not there. I think in a deeper way, it doesn't exist, but it's something we experience because we're alone in this body, this boundary, and that evokes those fears and pains and all that. Because where's the connection?
Yes.
And we are born alone, we die alone, as we say.
Yes.
And that's not easy. But I think it's an essential experience.
Yes. And yes, go.
Now, and just so the art I'm trying to practice is just be myself on my own, alone, without any acknowledgement of anybody or anything else, because I am all alone, all one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the whole on my own, the whole on, as they say.
Yes.
It's all the same, but we have to become aware of that. I'm all alone. No, it's not true. It's just a recent evolving experience in myself that I can be totally happy and complete on my own without needing somebody else to see me or to nurture me or to love me or to help me or to support me. Because I can be enough on my own recently. Mm-hmm. And that's rather new.
Mm-hmm. And what feels different about that? Like, describe a little more.
Thanks for asking. It's being balanced within myself without somebody else having to kind of keep me upright. So I'm more in myself. Feels peaceful, relaxed. I can feel my body better than before, and there's a peacefulness in it. Yes. Calm, yet very extremely alive. Something like that.
Thank you.
And when I can be in this state, then there's like this joy that comes alive, the joy of living.
Mm-hmm.
So I can be happy with just being here with myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that.
I can see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's layers of the onion of getting to know myself, you, and what's possible. Right? It's very subtle, but very clear at the same time.
Yes, and sometimes it's so obvious that it doesn't get noticed. That's what I sometimes experience, that the very best top experience I have in this domain, they get by without sometimes even going to notice, like, oh, that was a nice encounter with him, and we so much recognize in each other that it's so natural that it doesn't even excite us. Oh yeah, you're like me. Oh yeah, there's this connection. It's so wow, open, wow, and I enjoy it. And goodbye. I forget to ask their names sometimes. And that's basically proof of that what we just stated, that we are all the same.
Yes.
But when we are kind of formed or suffering and all that, then we got all these games going on, then it's hard to see it.
Yeah, and you know, what I've been noticing over the last year is where I get in my own way, and that's less and less, right? As I have people like you and others that are like, you go into the we, Tammy, and you go into the weeds, okay? Like, what about you? Who are you in this? Mm-hmm.
I like you better this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Without the we folk in between.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for seeing that and for showing me that I do that.
Hmm.
I have to pick it apart, you know.
No, you just let go. You don't need it at all. This is for this. Is this harder? This here now, the way you are?
I'm leaning into something that isn't as comfortable. Yeah. It's not
Okay.
harder. It's just different.
Spot on. Lean into it. That's all you need.
Yeah. And it really is love, Harry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And love is the oneness to me. The state of oneness. Everything is, as you say, intertwined and one thing actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know the Marianne Williamson quote about, you know,
Right.
yeah, that's what I feel I'm leaning into.
Yes. Could be. Yes. And I'm waiting for you to kind of starting to own that. I would love to see more of that.
I will.
I know.
Thanks, Harry. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So simple, really,
Yes. Yes.
and not true.
Until it's only difficult until you see it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I say it, there's a seeing again. Seeing is simple once you see it. But before that, it's a conundrum. It's a riddle. It's a panic. It's painful. It's all that. But once you see it, it's oh, wow. Now I see it. Oh, that's simple. Only after you see it.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a suggestion. Let's just be silent for 2 minutes, okay?
Okay. Yes, please.
I think that's it for the moment, or not?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. So much. I feel like I'll take this transformation into my next moments.
Yeah, I think I think it needs to sink in and just let the insights do its work. Just let go. It's there.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you. Same.
Okay. Till next time.
Till next time.